and welcome to Decision Dynamics inspirational webinar about the career model. We have many more registrations, but many of them are international, with where the time zones seems to be a bit off. CET stands for Central European Time. And that means in the middle of the night of the Americas. So I wish also those that are watching this recording afterwards welcome. And let me start by presenting myself. I'm Professor Rickard Larsson at Lund University Business Administration for about 20% of my time, and I spend more than 80% on Decision Dynamics, where I'm co-founder and responsible for research development, training, consulting, product development, and so on. What Decision Dynamics do is to help our clients to identify future leaders, to develop engaging leadership, strengthening employee engagement in different ways through teamwork, organizational culture, talent management, those kind of things. And for that, we have developed a family of tools that ranges from more competence-oriented tools to more motivational tools. Our two main international tools are Decision Styles and the Career Model. And both those models use both competence components and motivational components. And what's really nice about that combination is that one way of looking at engagement, which is a very valuable thing, is where competence and motivation meet for more sustainable and higher performance. And these same career and or decision style tools can be used for assessment of people in their present position, indicating potential, such things, while it's also for selecting people to new positions and developing people within present or for future positions. And being able to use the same tool, the same language, the same profile is especially good for managers and co-workers who are not interested in such a big toolkit as many HR people are. And we are basing this on more than 40 years of research and practice, where we have published in leading journals like Harvard Business Review and Academy of Management. And we've been working with in leading multinational companies throughout the world. And we have built a global team. The HQ is in Lund, Sweden, but we have regional distribution centers all over the world. We have local consultants and partnerships that spans more than 200 employees in more than users in more than 130 countries. There is presence in about 30 countries. There are translations into more than 20 languages. There are thousands of certified consultants and practitioners throughout the world, with millions of respondents that have used our tools over time. So that's a little bit about us. Let's talk about the agenda for today. The purpose is to describe what the career model is and how it can be used for more engaging leadership, attraction, selection, development, and retention of talents. And we will close by looking at how you can become certified in the career model, and discuss different ways of following up, such as trying out to do your own career profile, for instance. And questions can be asked throughout the webinar, and we'll also try to have some extra minutes of ask questions and answers at the end of the webinar. You can use the chat or put on your microphone and ask questions along the way. So what is this career model then? It is a model, a language, a tool for better understanding our views of what the successful career represents, and in terms of which direction should you be moving, and how long should you stay in one occupational field or in a job or in an organization. And there are 4 basic or fundamental career concepts that it's built upon. The first one is the expert career, and here you try to specialize in depth in a specific job, occupation that you like to become as good as possible for as long as possible. And you identify so much with this choice that you when people ask who are you, you tend to answer with your professional choice. I am a teacher, I am an engineer. It doesn't have to be high tech or academic. It can be any kind of profession that you like to become as good as possible for as long as possible. And this is the most traditional way of having a career for almost a lifetime, working life. So if experts are their career, linears make their career, and you make a linear career by climbing upwards towards higher managerial positions, where you have more authority, more responsibilities, often then also higher status and so on. And in time, in terms of that time perspective, the quicker you can climb this ladder, the better. So if there is internal promotions, you tend to stay in that organization. If there is slow internal promotions, then you can jump between organizations. So that's the 2 traditional ways of either being or making your career. But that's not enough. That this is limiting to either specializing or climbing upwards. It's quite vertical, so to speak. And we should also take a look at the spiral career, which you neither are or make. You rather discover it because you're being taught that you should become some kind of profession or manager. And you start out with aiming for that, and that might be great for 5-6 years, but then motivation goes down, and you're standing in front of your bathroom mirror in the morning and wondering what you're doing and who you are, and the people around you are wondering even more because you have a great job. What's the problem? And the problem is there is something missing. There is something that you could add to your what do you call it, portfolio. So you start looking for how can I build upon what I've done before, and you find that after a couple of years perhaps, and you go, okay, I was just a little bit off, but now I'm on the right track. But give it 5-6 years, motivation goes down again. And this time, hopefully, you start discovering a bit faster what you're missing and can more quickly get that second kick, and you go, wow, what if I do this for 5 years, and then something else for 5 years, and then something else again for another 5 years? Wouldn't that be a fantastic career? But it can take 20 years to discover that we should change every 5 years, because that's not what we, for instance, taught teach at the universities. Come for our 4-year education and just use it for 5 years isn't really the university dream. Then we have transitory. As let's see if I can do a little bit. There is. Can you please mute your microphones unless you have something you like to add, because it disturbs the others. Anyway, thank you. But listening is quite good. Finally, we have transitory. Here you don't even think that you have a career, because you change so often to so different things without any red thread or anything like that. So this is tend to be the most misunderstood, most devalued of the 4 different career orientations. But it's also becoming more and more okay during the last couple of decades. So these are the 4 different career orientations, and they are not only 4 paths that you can take, they are also the 4 ways of looking at other people's careers. So if you put on the expert spectacles and look at another expert, you see someone who's serious, but they're wrong because you are more right than they are. And the manager tend to decide more than he or she knows, because they don't have the detailed, in-depth knowledge. And spirals look promising in the beginning, but then suddenly sort of lacked stamina and focus when they went off somewhere sideways. And the worst in the eyes of the expert is transitory. This is what they call for jack of all trades, master of none. This shows the old guild system root that mastership is something that the expert is viewing as pretty much ideal. And transitory are the farthest from that. If we instead look through the spectacles of the linear at the expert, we see a management problem. Yes, they're good and we need them, but they ask difficult questions. They don't like change. And if you promote the best one, then they don't want to become a manager, the ungrateful bastards, or they become a manager and not so good at it. So what do you do with them? This is a common misunderstanding that we find between linear managers and, for instance, expert engineers. And we have tried to solve that with double career ladders, but you can almost hear that a ladder is a linear solution to an expert problem, where the experts don't think that they are the problem. A linear looking at another linear sees some goal-oriented, but also perhaps a competitor. Are they out to take my position or even jump above me? And those going sideways instead of up must have a faulty compass. Don't you know which way is up? And the transitory have even they simply don't have a CV that you can become a manager with. So that's hopeless from a managerial point of view. Switch spectacles to spiral. You look at an expert and see someone who's overly specialized, narrow, and linears are sacrificing their personal development instead of for the sake of climbing in their career. And that's not so good. But if they happen to bump into another spiral, and they discover their spiral development, oh, that sounds really exciting. I could imagine doing that too. But bumping into a transitory that never make use of their past experience, isn't that a bit wasteful? And finally, transitory looking at an expert sees someone who's more rigid and narrow-minded, and the linear is a conventional careerist, and that's not fun. And spiral are rather flexible, but a bit too careful, doesn't dare to take so many wide, big turns. But if they then bump into a transitory, that was a free-spirited soul. So this is one of our more popular PowerPoints, and it because it has some humor built into it. It has some recognition. Which of these lines do you recognize your own reactions to? But the most important thing about this slide is that out of 16 combinations, there are only 2 that are really positive. The spiral discovering another spiral, and a transitory bumping into another transitory. All the other combinations have different dirt on their spectacles, where they don't recognize the talents of others, but rather recognize the drawbacks of those talents or those orientations in the eyes of yourself. So this is not how we should view each other. I don't have time to go through all of these 16 positive combinations, but I just like to show you that we can be more respectful, more appreciative, more trusting in our views of others, rather than misunderstanding or even mistrusting them because they tend to be different from your own view. But even better is to actually answer 38 questions to get your own career profile, because we are not just one of these 4 career concepts. Our blue bars indicate which one do we think is the most ideal or second most ideal, and the higher the blue bar, the more ideal it is. So Sandra here thinks that linear is the best and spiral is the second. A low blue bar is more of a nightmare. She don't want to get stuck as an expert or jump around with a hopeless CV like a transitory. But we also measure the underlying motives, and that's a very important addition to the career model, that we can use the same 4 concepts for seeing which directions are most motivating, and those are the red bars. And in Sandra's case, they are extremely congruent. So she has a high career self-awareness. If she is following her linear ideal, she will also satisfy most of her career motives. But that's very unusual. There isn't 1% of us that has this almost complete correspondence between the blue bars representing how we view things in our head, and the red bars more representing how we feel about things in our hearts and guts. And let's look at Joe. This is a more common profile, especially in those countries where there is a lot of linear views, like the US or France, and many of the Anglo-Saxon countries. Joe, if he gets promoted, would he say yes to that? And the answer is yes. He dreams just as much as Sandra to climb the corporate ladder. But 6 months later, after he's been promoted, is he a happy and engaged manager? No. When did you have fun at work last, Joe? Well, that was when I was working on this molecule. Have you had time to do that since you've been promoted? No, I've just been administrating people. So why did you idealize the linear career? And why did you devalue the expert career where you could have specialized on your favorite molecule? Whoops, I'm probably making a career on other people's terms. That's unfortunately very common. Around the world, about 60% of us have a highest blue bar pointing in one direction that goes different from the highest red bar, which would have been most engaging to us. So one of the key contributions is that we can very easily, just 10-15 minutes of investment in answering a questionnaire, and whether it's a feed forward coaching dialogue for 45 minutes or something, or a workshop, webinar like this, you can find what is the most engaging and avoid misdirections that Joe have, and discover your motivation potentials, which most of us have. Luckily, the misdirection that Joe has is a bit extreme. It's rarely that big. But these are valuable because if most of us don't know what our primary motives are, we have difficulty taking greater responsibility for our own engagement. And managers guess even worse. If we can guess about 40% of our motives, managers only guess about 20%. Because they have their often then linear spectacles and misunderstand many of the other career concepts. But this investment in a career profile makes that we can all discover our primary motives. So we can take greater responsibility for our own engagement. So we can communicate what really engages us more in a constructive way, not as I'm happy, I don't feel good about what I'm doing. I have a motivation potential, whether it's expert or if it's spiral or if it's transitory. Motivation potential are more nice thing than complaints. So manager can lead us in more engaging ways. So these are the core benefits of answering the career profile and guiding yourself and helping others to lead you, to cooperate in teams and so on with better knowledge of what really engages you. And then we have extended this further by looking at the organizational culture in terms of the strategy, structure, appraisal, and rewards. Because you can also measure organizations in terms of which of the different career orientations is supported by the strategy, structure, appraisal, and rewards. An expert career culture looks like you focus on your core business, to create long-term stability. You have a flat functional structure, so you don't get promoted too much. You appraise the quality and seniority of the people, and you recognize them for their expertise. This is very different from a linear growth culture, which is about trying to build a higher pyramid so you can get promoted to more times, that you can become the market leader and grow your performance and get further promoted as you perform better. This is a very upward-oriented culture. Compare that with the spiral culture, which is much more of a diverse. We don't have to become the market leader. We can broaden to related business areas, and we do that best if we have more of a matrix or project structure where you can move sideways too. And creativity and teamwork are important factors to appraise, and job rotation is actually a reward. Well, it actually is a punishment of experts that like to specialize on what they're already doing. And finally, transitory career culture is the most unusual one, even though it has also become more usual during the last couple of decades, where you capture opportunities as they arise. We can put some informal teams together and we can change those teams easily. It's part about being quick and flexible to capture those opportunities, and you like your independence, your autonomy. You don't want to be closely supervised. So these are four very different cultures, and you can compare your red motives that you assess with the career profile with your culture view, which are the yellow bars. And the higher the yellow bar, the more of that type of culture. So Sandra has found a linear culture, somewhat spiral, and there's not much expert, and there is almost nothing transitory in that culture, and it fits her motives beautifully. And again, that's very rare. Let's look at Joe. He has found a similar organization, which may look good in his head, but it's not that good. Well, it's partly good. The second most motivating for him is spiral, and that's also the second most prevalent. And what's least motivating for him is transitory, which is the least prevalent. So there are two good news for Joe, but there are also two bad news for Joe, in that what's the most in the culture is not so motivating to him. So there is a disturbance when the yellow is higher than the red. And what's even worse, what's motivating him the most is almost non-existent in this culture. So there's a lot of things Joe can do, but that doesn't mean that he should change organization. he can try to find more linear cultural parts. With the help of their boss and HR, they can find even more expert things and can find some protection, escape some of the linear parts that seems to be so prevalent. By reducing the linear and increasing the expert culture parts, Joe can become quite more engaged in his culture. This can also be used for employer branding. If you think about an expert culture, if that's what you're branding out, you're going to attract experts because they think it's serious and stable. But you're going to disengage. Linear thinks it's a dead end because it's so flat. Spiral thinks it's very limiting because there are these functional silos. And Transitory thinks it just is very slow and formal. If you instead go the linear culture route, linears will like it because it's competitive and efficient. But experts or spirals and transitories will find problems with that culture. As a spiral culture will attract spiral concepts and motives, but disengage rather the expert linear and transitories. And the same thing with the transitory. So understanding this is that you actually need all of these career segments because they add different talents, but you don't attract them in the same way. When you are looking to attract experts, you push your expert subculture. When you're attracting linears, you try to push more of your linear subculture. And you try to build a more pluralistic culture where more, or hopefully all of these four, actually can win instead of having just one. Or some cultures are inconsistent, so nobody can win. So there's a lot of things you can do with the culture once you assess it. And then you can also be used to recruit people. What would you like to know about your candidates? Their career self-awareness, their fit with the manager, their time horizon, when they start looking at their next job, the fit with the job, the accuracy of their job expectations, the fit with team members, accuracy of their cultural expectations, and the fit with the culture. All of these 8 ought to be interesting. But the sad news is, or it isn't even news, is that most recruiters only use one of these 8. They measure the job fit between static personality tools and the job requirements. But none of the other 7 factors are systematically measured. And the career model can help you with that. By answering the 38 questions, you get an idea of their career self-insight. Are you hiring a Sandra that knows very well what engages her the most? Or are you hiring a Joe that thinks he knows, but actually he's making a career on other people's terms? That's good to know, but nobody else is measuring that career self-awareness. The time horizon is essential. Whether they want to stay as long as possible or they want to stay a short amount of time, or a couple of years, and then go on to the next, then you should try to plan for internal next rather than external next by thinking about the next steps earlier. You can use it to measure job fit by comparing the motives to the competence requirements of the job. So that's more traditional ways of doing it. But you can also add measuring the culture fit by finding out what is the culture and compare that to the motives. And you can even look at the interpersonal fit with the managers and with the teams. We have these team profiles that is also part of the career model, where, for instance, you can place where is the boss and where are the candidates and where are the colleagues that they will be working with. And here you can see that the A persons are the hired, and we're comparing BE and BF. And who likes them the most? You tend to like people the closer they are, but they are more complementary the more different they are in these profiles. And you're not only hiring heads, you're also hiring hearts, and that's another good thing to know when you recruit people. When it comes to leadership and culture, do we engage all these four concepts and motives? You engage experts through stable, secure refinement. You engage linears to competitive, efficient leadership. You engage them through spirals, through creative, cross-functional teamwork, and you engage transitories with self-managed, varied mobile networking. And if you're able to engage experts, they provide high quality and long-term commitment. Engaged linears provide drive towards high performance and growth. And engaged spirals provide innovative, cooperative skill diversity, which is great. And transitory provide high-speed, flexible customer adaptation. And you actually need all of these. They actually together make up what we can call a growth relay, where transitories are great at finding new opportunities. Spirals are great at developing these new opportunities in relationship with the existing organization. And linears are great at growing that opportunity competitively. And experts are good at long-term harvesting once you have grown the opportunity. So this is not 4 times 100 meters. This is 4 times different kind of talents that complement one another. And the good news, sorry, a normal manager engages one of these segments. A good manager engages 2 of these segments. A poor manager engages none of these segments. But engaging leadership with the career model is about engaging 3 or even all 4 of these segments. So that's another value that you can add. So this is the overall chart. You can use it for leading, you can use it for attracting, selecting, developing, appraising, retaining, and even helping exits in different ways. And you can career segment your employer branding, you can measure their engagement potential for more engaged and longer stay. You can develop more engaging career paths and team building and competence development. You can appraise more through in engaging ways through employee surveys where the people actually learn something about themselves. There is performance management where you can use more intrinsic, that means non-monetary rewards that are less costly and more engaging. And you can even help the people who are leaving, and that will also help the stayers. So all of these things can increase retention, and with increased retention, you have less recruitment and costs with that. And using the same tool, using the same language across these processes is a great benefit, especially for managers and co-workers, compared to having assessment center for appraisal, OPQ for selection, MBTI for development, and these things don't communicate with one another. So, we also have this engagement compass that we have developed. This is one of our more recent additions, where we put the person themselves as the primary responsible for their own engagement, instead of putting all that responsibility on the bosses only. The boss is the second most important for your engagement, because they can respect and develop and trust your motivating talents. And together with your boss, you can sculpture or craft your work to become more engaging, which is a very good way of developing things. Your team can be more cooperative and engaging by knowing each other better. And your culture can also be, you can basically navigate towards more engaging subcultures. And we have put this engagement compass into a book that is actually, it looks like 2 books, but it's one book. It has engaging leadership from one side, it has engaging whoops, is it upside down? Engaging career from one side, engaging leadership from the other side. And this is one way where you can go, if you choose, you can start from which side you like, which engages you the most. If it's career, you can start with yourself, finding your drivers and killers, helping your boss to become more engaging leader, developing the work, developing the teamwork, and finding the culture. That's the inside out career engagement compass. And the engaging leadership rather starts from the culture. How can that become more sustainably engaging? And then the manager, how can they work with their team? How can the jobs become more engaging from the leadership point of view? How can you become a more engaging leader? And finally, you find that the best thing you can do is to turn around the book and read it from the other side, whether you started on the career or the leadership one first. So this is an interesting part that is also part of the certification. Any questions before we talk about the certification program that we have? Okay. Sounds. If you come up with any questions along the way, please let me know in the chat or put on your mic. How can you become certified to use this? Because we certify both HR people for using it inside their own organization, and we certify consultants to use it with their clients. And it's modularized, so the basic, most fundamental certification is in the career profile. Those are those 38 questions that you can learn in 3 live sessions that are 1 to 1.5 hours long. There are 3 recorded sessions that are about the same kind of time period, and there is a training project. Together it makes up to about 14 hours in total. It's the next English career certification is scheduled, open such, is scheduled on March 12 and ends April 11th. So it is not very time consuming. It's easy to fit into your schedule. And even if you miss one live session, you can watch it afterwards in the recordings version of it. So it's a very user friendly design. Then you can add module 2, which is the culture fit. Then you also learn about the organizational part of this, how to answer the 78 questions in order to get the culture fit profile. How do you interpret and feed forward those? It's a little bit shorter, 12 hours in total, 2 live sessions, 2 recorded sessions, and a follow-up training project. Next one is scheduled in May, and ends early June. And finally, we have module 3, which is about team and engagement. It's because both career profiles and culture fit profiles are individual. It's one respondent gets the respondent's own profile. We can add these, aggregate career profiles into a motivational survey of a team or a unit or a whole organization. There is also culture surveys where you add the culture view of a number of people. And we can also make these team diamonds that you saw very briefly during the presentation. And we have the engagement applications that are included, especially in this engagement guide. So that's a little bit shorter again, 10 hours with 2 live sessions and 2 recorded sessions. And it's being done in June, the next open one. I got a question on the training project. Means that in the first career profile certification module, each participant there who is about to become certified selects 3 training persons that are invited to answer the 38 questions, and then You have a feed-forward session with each of them. You record one of the later sessions. The first one tends to be the most difficult, but after you've done the first one, the second will become both better and easier, and the third one will typically become the best one. And record either the second or the third one. Send the recording to me, and well as a report on all your three feed-forward individual feed-forward dialogues, and then we have the last live session is a sharing where you shared your experiences. Along with me also talking more about how you can apply those experiences. And then I write a letter with constructive suggestions how you can do the feed forward, how you can do the presentation even better. Along with getting your certificate. So you tend to spend around 3 to 4 hours on that training project. So it's the most significant of all the 9 steps that we do in the career profile, and then there are about 6-7 steps on the other 2. And we have similar kind of training projects, especially in the culture fit one. You tend to reuse the one that you used in the first one. So that's more about the training project. And then my key question to you is how you like to follow up this webinar. Would you like to try to do your own career report? I know that at least a couple of you in the audience have already done that. But everyone who is participate here that hasn't done their career profile, or it was a long time since they did a career profile, you're welcome to do it for free. Just write in the chat if you like to be invited to do that, and then we can have a discussion, post individual team meeting where we can talk a little bit about your profile, a mini feed forward, let's say. I can also provide you with more information, whether you are most interested in career development or leadership development or job and person development that can be combined, or team building or organizational development and change processes. I'm a specialist in mergers and acquisitions, by the way, if you're involved in that. And recruitment and talent management is another area. Let's see, I see something more in the chat here, if I can move up. We also, in addition to the open certification, which people from different organizations comes, if people are coming from the same organization, we can customize the certification online easily to fit your timing issues, your time zones, and perhaps special emphasis and things. So if there are many participants from the same organization, let's discuss if not the customized version would be the most suitable. And this is something that I've talked with one of you I know already. So customized versions are also possible. What else did we have? One can combine a discussion, your own career profile, if you invest those 10-15 minutes in answering the questions. And as soon as you have answered the questions, you'll be able to download your own report. And then we can have the meeting, we can talk about how you would like to become certified, if so, and other types of cooperation that we can have, for instance, with consultants. So that's the menu. Any questions about how to follow this up? anyone who would like to volunteers for being invited to do your own career profile, please write that in the chat or put on your microphone and volunteer. Oh, thank you, Charlotte. You are noted. You will get an invitation later this afternoon from the Decision Dynamics web center, and it only takes a couple of minutes. It's one of the better investments that you can do with your time. Any other questions or volunteering? Any other? I know that there is at least one Danish, and the Center for Ledelse is our Danish agent, if you like, that are providing Danish certifications and Danish translations of the tools and so on. So Center for Ledelse is someone that you can contact for Danish certification. Okay, any last questions? Or are we managing to do this with only 1 or 2 minutes late? I mean, tendency to take longer than that. So if there are no questions, I thank you for this your participation. If you can also ask questions via email. You can also stay on because I'm not leaving this meeting until everybody has left. So if you like to talk somewhat more privately, please do so as other people have left. So thank you for today, and hope we can connect afterwards in different useful ways. Bye bye. Thank you.